And Sahil Kapur, congressional reporter at Talking Points Memo, who's been following this since the beginning. We owe Sahil a hot tip because of his first statement he made on the program back in March after the conclusion of oral arguments. Here's what he had to say.
I think the Chief Justice was, indeed, he was aggressively questioning the administration's Solicitor General, but at the latter half of the oral arguments Tuesday, he expressed some sympathy with the administration's argument that the healthcare market is unique and it needs to be treated in a unique way. So the question is, you know, on what side of that does he come down? We didn't see that same kind of skepticism or that same kind of questioning to the challengers from Justices Scalia or Alito.
So, Sahil, you and I sat next to each other during oral arguments, and there were a couple of times when the Chief Justice spoke that you and I exchanged glances. Now, I am not a Supreme Court expert, so I ended up chickening out and deferring to the people I thought were Supreme Court experts and saying that in the end, maybe it would be Kennedy that would be the swing vote after my gut had initially told me John Roberts. So I chickened out. You stuck with that instinct. You were right. But what did surprise you about this opinion?
What was really surprising about his final opinion on, you know, just to really save the law itself and to uphold the mandate was how he did it. And he basically decreed the mandate as effectively a tax. He said it's valid under Congress's power to tax, but he completely sided with conservatives and said it's not valid under the Commerce Clause, it's not valid under the Necessary and Proper Clause.
But conservatives, the Wall Street Journal, many legal experts were scathing opinions of their own today, saying that basically Justice Roberts rewrote the law in order to get to his opinion. Do you agree with that assessment?
I'm not sure he rewrote the law. I think there's an important distinction to be made in the letter of the law and the functionality of the law. The letter of the law, for political purposes, Democrats decided we're going to call it a penalty and not a tax. That served two purposes. One was they wanted to keep President Obama's promise not to raise taxes on the middle class, and the second was Republicans are more fond of penalties than taxes, so they thought it might help get them on board. Look how that worked out. So, you know, at the end of the day, though, the way it functions is as a tax. It's not, you know, you're not going to be hauled in as a criminal if you don't pay this. You just have to pay, or if you don't buy insurance, you just have to pay more in taxes. Yeah, I was just going to say, this law at its core and the mandate was basically the government's way of saying no more freeloaders.
Right.
Everyone's going to use health care at some point in their lives, pretty much, and the mandate was the government's way of saying, pay up front.
The true libertarian position, the true liberty, is just to say, you know what, if you don't have health care, you're on your own, and we're not going to treat you. But we don't say that. We do treat all comers.
There was a law passed in the 1980s that said emergency rooms cannot turn down patients.
Exactly.
So for that reason, that's
why hospital stock went up.
A lot of people can get sick and end up in the emergency room, and they have to get covered.
There were a lot of communities.
Somebody's going to pay.
Sahil, you're so wise on things. Handicap this. A year from now, does Affordable Care Act still stand, or do we have a new president and a repeal of the entire act?
It entirely depends on the election. I think that's impossible to predict with any kind of certainty.
And too many journalists try to predict the Supreme Court decision or prove them wrong. I'm so glad to know that you are one of those, like John Harwood, who said punditry does not pay.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I would not try to predict the election at this point. But yes, the battle is far from over, you know, what happens next with the Affordable Care Act. Pretty much entirely hinges on the election. If Republicans sweep, they have a very good chance at more or less gutting the law.